Good evening, Guyana. Here's a quick update from today's developments in the ongoing extradition matter involving opposition leader in waiting Azruddin Mohamed and his father Nazar Mohamed. Attorney at law Roysdale Forde today briefed members of the media outlining the key defense arguments presented in Monday's court session. Forde explained that the defense challenged several aspects of the extradition request, insisting that the legal process must be guided strictly by law and not influenced by what he described as political undertones. The defense maintains that both Azruddin and Nazar Mohamed continue to comply fully with the proceedings and that no criminal charges have been laid against them here in Guyana. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, the arguments today centered around the unconstitutionality of the amendments made in 2009. We believe that we would have presented the arguments clearly, which shows the potential unconstitutionality and the basis for the referral to the High Court. We would have dealt with the principles applicable for referral, that it must not be frivolous and vexatious. We articulated the reasons why it's not frivolous and vexatious, to have the questions that we wanted to refer to the High Court be determined by the High Court. The issues in relation to the questions that we identified related to the amendments, as I said. First, dealing with the power of the minister to arrest, detain, and extradite a citizen. That was dealt with in one part of the questions. The second question dealt with the ability of the court to be directed by Parliament by virtue of legislation, not only on how to interpret the legislation, but to be directed as to what conclusion to be given to a particular section in the Act. These questions arose because in the Dr. Ram's case, the full court, Justice Chang and Justice William Ramlal at the time, sat and determined and found that the extradition arrangement between Guyana and America, the United States of America, was deficient in that Section A3B of the Extradition Act required the courts to look to the extradition treaty to determine whether there was a particular provision dealing with re-extradition. The full court found that that provision was not there and therefore it was not in accordance with the direction in the Act. What happened in 2009 is that Parliament then passed a legislation directing the courts to read the provision in Section A3B as if it is in fact. So that is one of the issues that we raised in relation to the challenge. The third question centered around the prohibition in the very 2009 amendment, which prohibited citizens who are subject to extradition proceedings from challenging in these courts the extradition arrangements and infractions in the extradition arrangements in relation to the illegalities of it. We would have dealt with those issues and we would have asked the court to consider them. The learned friends on the other side would have made their arguments. We would have only learned and heard of them today. We sought to get and obtain from the court an opportunity to put in written submissions, which she granted. We have until tomorrow morning to respond to their oral and written submissions and to lay it over with the court.
What about the new disclosure made today?
The new disclosure made today is in fact part of the very problem that we have with the proceedings. Firstly, we've been trying on each and every occasion, and you would have heard me say so in court, to have complete disclosure before we respond to whatever is brought in the court and before we make our submissions. Once again, that did not happen. But more importantly, this disclosure seeks to remedy the very breach of the legislation. We seek to produce a document from the United States which sought to give assurances in relation to the non-re-extradition. The full court would have ruled that in relation to any such thing, it must be in the treaty. So we are of the view that currently that document has no legal validity having regard to the scheme of the legislation.
The hearing continues, and News Guyana 24 will keep you updated on every major development. I'm Dunstan Wilson, keeping it real, raw, and relevant, and remember, the tape never lies.